The body cam footage didn't lie, but the cop wearing it did, and now a black civil rights lawyer was about to dismantle his career, his lies, and his badge in front of a packed courtroom using the officer's own recorded words against him. Marcus Holloway wasn't supposed to be in handcuffs that night. A Harvard-educated civil rights attorney with 15 years of courtroom victories, he'd been driving home from his daughter's dance recital when Officer Derek Vance pulled him over for what the police report would later call erratic driving. But Marcus's Tesla had been recording the entire stop, and what it captured wasn't erratic driving. It was a man signaling properly, obeying every traffic law, and still ending up face down on wet pavement with a knee in his back. The official police report painted Marcus as aggressive, non-compliant, and verbally abusive. 3 months later, Marcus stood in Judge Caroline Rivera's courtroom, not as a defendant facing assault charges, but as a plaintiff with his own lawyer beside him, ready to play the one piece of evidence Officer Vance had forgotten about, his own body camera. Marcus had been fighting injustice his entire career, but he'd never imagined he'd become another case file. Growing up in South Philadelphia, he'd watched his father, a mechanic, get pulled over 17 times in 3 years for matching a description. Each stop ended with an apology, no ticket, and his father's quiet rage simmering in the driver's seat. Young Marcus would ask why the police kept stopping them, and his father would say, "Because we're guilty of driving while black, son." That phrase haunted Marcus through college, through law school, through every civil rights case he'd won. He'd represented dozens of victims of police brutality, extracted millions in settlements, gotten officers fired and policies changed. But experiencing it himself, feeling the cold asphalt against his cheek, hearing his 8-year-old daughter crying in the back seat, tasting blood from a split lip, had transformed his mission from professional to deeply personal. Officer Derek Vance had 12 years on the force and a record that, on paper, looked clean. No excessive force complaints that stuck, no disciplinary actions beyond a written warning for missing paperwork. He was a training officer, well-liked by his fellow cops, and a union representative had already released a statement calling Marcus's lawsuit another frivolous attack on hard-working police officers. Vance came from a family of cops, father, grandfather, 2 uncles, all with a badge. To him, police work wasn't just a job. It was identity, legacy, proof of worth. Anyone who challenged his authority challenged everything he believed made him matter. But Marcus had learned something in 15 years of courtroom warfare. Everyone tells on themselves eventually. They just need the right audience. The courtroom hummed with tension as Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Walsh finished presenting the state's evidence against Marcus. She'd shown photos of Officer Vance's torn uniform, read the police report describing Marcus's alleged aggression, and called 2 backup officers who'd arrived after the incident. Their testimony was synchronized, rehearsed, and completely contradicted by the dashboard camera footage from Marcus's Tesla. But Walsh hadn't mentioned that footage yet because she didn't know it existed. Marcus's attorney, Rebecca Chun, a fierce litigator who'd worked with Marcus on dozens of cases before becoming his representation, sat calmly beside him, her laptop glowing with cued video files. The hint of a smile played at her lips, the same predatory smile she wore when she knew she had a defendant cornered before they realized the trap had closed. Judge Rivera, a no-nonsense former prosecutor known for her fairness and her intolerance for lies, leaned forward. "Mr. Holloway, you'll have your opportunity to present your defense." Marcus stood, his tailored navy suit a stark contrast to the orange jumpsuit he'd worn during his initial arrest. His voice was quiet, but carried across the courtroom. "Your Honor, with respect, I'm not here to present a defense. I'm here to present the truth." He turned, meeting Vance's eyes directly. "Officer Vance, you forgot something that night. You forgot that the truth has a witness. Your camera." Officer Vance shifted in his seat, jaw tight. The assistant DA frowned. Rebecca Chin rose, laptop in hand. "Your Honor, the defense would like to present video evidence from the night in question. We have Mr. Holloway's Tesla dashboard camera footage, and we also have Officer Vance's body camera footage, obtained through discovery." Walsh stood quickly. "Objection, Your Honor. The defense didn't disclose this evidence we disclosed everything in our discovery motion 6 weeks ago," Rebecca interrupted crisply. "The state chose not to review it thoroughly. Judge Rivera's eyes narrowed. Overruled. Let's see this footage. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly as Rebecca connected her laptop to the court's display system. The large screen flickered to life, showing the view from Marcus's dashboard camera. The timestamp read 8:47 p.m. Marcus's Tesla was stopped at a red light. Turn signal blinking for a right turn. The light turned green. Marcus turned right, signaling throughout. 30 seconds later, flashing blue lights appeared behind him. Marcus immediately pulled over, hands visible on the steering wheel. His daughter's voice, small and scared, came through the speakers. "Daddy, why are the police stopping us?" "It's okay, sweetheart. Stay calm. Keep your hands where I can see them." The courtroom was silent. Officer Vance approached the driver's window, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. His face was visible, young and stern. His partner's voice crackled to the radio, picked up by the Tesla's external microphone. "That's a nice car for this neighborhood." Vance's response, muttered but clear, probably not even his. A black woman in the front row of the gallery covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes widening. "License and registration." Marcus's voice on the recording was calm, professional. "Officer, may I ask why you pulled me over?" "License and registration." "Now." "Of course." I'm reaching for my wallet in my jacket pocket. Marcus's hands moved slowly, deliberately toward his inside pocket. That's when Officer Vance's hand went to his gun. "Don't move." "I'm complying with your request for identification, officer. My wallet is in my—" "Step out of vehicle." Marcus's breath caught audibly on the recording. "Officer, I have my 8-year-old daughter in the back seat. I'm an attorney. I'm happy to provide my license, but I'd like to understand, you questioning me? Step out of the vehicle now, or I'll remove you myself." The courtroom audience leaned forward. Several people in the gallery looked at Officer Vance, who sat stone-faced. Marcus complied on the video, opening his door slowly, hands raised. "I'm unarmed. I'm complying." But as Marcus stepped out, Officer Vance grabbed his arm, twisted behind his back, and slammed him against the car. Marcus's daughter screamed. "Stop resisting." Vance shouted, though the video clearly showed Marcus was resisting. "I'm not resisting, officer. Please, my daughter." The Tesla camera captured it all. Marcus on the ground, Vance's knee in his back, Marcus's face pressed into the wet street, blood from his split lip pooled on the asphalt. His daughter's hysterical crying echoed through the courtroom speakers, each sob hitting like a physical blow. An older white man in the gallery, a retired judge Marcus recognized, shook his head slowly, his jaw clenched. Even the court stenographer, usually expressionless, had stopped typing, staring at the screen with her hand pressed to her chest. Rebecca paused the video. The courtroom was silent except for muffled gasps and one woman's quiet weeping. Judge Rivera's expression had hardened into something cold and furious. Have you ever witnessed injustice that made your blood boil? What would you do if this was your family being brutalized for simply driving home? Before we see how Marcus fights back with the truth, tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe every police interaction should be recorded to protect everyone, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for stories where evidence speaks louder than lies and justice actually wins. Rebecca spoke quietly, her voice cutting through the shocked silence. That's the Tesla footage. Now, let's see what Officer Vance reported. She pulled up the police report on the screen. According to Officer Vance's report, Mr. Holloway made furtive movements, exhibited aggressive body language, verbally threatened the officer, and physically resisted arrest. She let that hang in the air. But we have one more piece of evidence. Officer Vance's own body camera. Walsh stood again, desperation creeping into her voice. "Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess to—" "Sit down, counselor," Judge Rivera said flatly. "I want to see this footage." Rebecca played the body cam footage. It showed everything from Vance's perspective, including audio the Tesla's external camera couldn't capture clearly. As Vance approached the car, his partner's voice came through his radio. "You see who that is?" Vance's response, muttered under his breath, but picked up clearly by his body microphone. "Another one of these people thinking they own the road." The courtroom erupted. Judge Rivera slammed her gavel. Order! The body cam continued. It showed Marcus complying, moving slowly, explaining every action. It showed Vance's unnecessary aggression, his hand moving to his weapon when Marcus reached for his wallet, exactly as instructed. And then it captured something the police report had omitted entirely. As Vance forced Marcus to ground, his partner approached. Derek, man, ease up. He's complying. Vance's response, clear as day on his own body camera. These people need to learn respect. He comes out here in his fancy car, acts like he's better than us. Derek, he's a lawyer. I don't care what he is. He's in my jurisdiction, and he'll do what I say. The footage ended. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Officer Derek Vance's face had gone pale, then red. Marcus sat motionless, but his hands gripped the table edge until his knuckles went white. 3 months of therapy, nightmares, his daughter's terrified screams. All of it was playing in front of strangers who could finally see what he'd lived through. His chest felt tight, his throat closing. He forced himself to breathe, in and out, the way his therapist had taught him. Rebecca's hand found his shoulder, squeezing once, grounding him. The truth was out there now, recorded and undeniable. He exhaled slowly. He wasn't alone anymore. Every person in this courtroom had witnessed it. Rebecca Chen's voice was steady, but there was an edge of controlled fury beneath the professionalism. Your Honor, Officer Vance's own body camera proves he lied in his report. He fabricated charges. He racially profiled my client. And he traumatized an 8-year-old child who now has nightmares about police officers. She turned to face Vance directly. You forgot your camera was recording, didn't you, officer? Vance's attorney, a union-appointed defender, jumped up. Your Honor, this is clearly. Save it. Judge Rivera interrupted, her voice like ice. I've seen enough. She turned to Officer Vance. Officer, stand. Vance stood reluctantly, his face red, his hands trembling slightly. Judge Rivera's gaze could have melted steel. In 22 years on the bench, I have seen police officers make mistakes. I've seen confusion, miscommunication, and errors in judgment. What I just watched was none of those things. Her voice rose slightly, each word precise and cutting. What I just watched was a sworn law enforcement officer racially profiling a citizen, lying in an official report, filing false charges, and then forgetting that his own equipment would expose every single lie. She leaned forward. Officer Vance, you're looking at filing a false police report. That's a felony. Perjury in an official proceeding. Another felony. Civil rights violations under federal law. Title 18, Section 242. Federal charges that carry serious prison time. Assault under color of authority. Both criminal and civil liability. And if the DA's office finds a pattern of this behavior, we're talking conspiracy charges. She paused, letting the weight of each charge settle. Do you understand the severity of what you've done? Vance opened his mouth, then closed it. No words came. She turned to the assistant district attorney. Ms. Walsh, I assume the state will be dropping all charges against Mr. Holloway immediately? Walsh stood, clearly shaken. Yes, Your Honor. The state moves to dismiss all charges with prejudice. Motion granted. Judge Rivera turned back to Vance. Officer Vance, I'm forwarding this footage to the district attorney's office for immediate criminal investigation. You're suspended from duty as of this moment, and I expect you'll be in handcuffs yourself before the week is out. The gavel came down like thunder. And if I ever see you in my courtroom again wearing a badge, it'll be too soon. This court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted again, but this time Judge Rivera didn't call for order. She simply watched as Officer Derek Vance was escorted out by court security, no longer looking stern and authoritative, but small, exposed, and defeated. Marcus stood slowly, Rebecca's hand still on his shoulder. People were standing, some clapping, others crying. The black woman who'd covered her mouth earlier was holding her teenage son close, tears streaming down her face, whispering something in his ear. The retired judge approached Marcus, extending his hand. Counselor, that was justice. Marcus shook it, his own hand still trembling slightly. Outside the courthouse, Marcus stood on the steps as reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Microphones thrust forward. But Marcus didn't speak immediately. He looked up at the courthouse behind him, this building where he'd won so many cases for others, and now had won one for himself. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but carried across the crowd. For 15 years, I've stood in courtrooms fighting for people who were victimized by the very system meant to protect them. I never wanted to become one of those people. He paused, composing himself. But my daughter shouldn't have to watch her father be brutalized for driving home from her dance recital. No child should have nightmares about the people who are supposed to serve and protect. A reporter called out, "What happens now?" Marcus looked directly into the cameras. Now, Officer Vance faces a justice system he tried to weaponize against me. Now, my daughter gets to see that the truth matters, that accountability exists, and that her father's work, our work, fighting for civil rights actually means something. He took a breath. Body cameras don't lie. Officers do. That's why I record everything. Rebecca stepped forward. We'll be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against Officer Vance and the police department. And we'll be advocating for mandatory body camera usage with third-party oversight and real accountability measures. Marcus added one final thought, his voice strengthening. If you've experienced something like this, if you've been profiled, brutalized, or falsely accused, document everything. Record everything legally possible. And don't stop fighting, because the truth is powerful, but only if we have the courage to speak it and the evidence to prove it. 3 months later, Officer Derek Vance pled guilty to filing false reports, perjury, and civil rights violations. He lost his badge, his pension eligibility, and served 18 months in prison. The police department settled Marcus's civil suit for $2.3 million and implemented mandatory body camera policies, with third-party oversight and quarterly audits. Marcus donated the entire settlement to organizations providing legal aid for victims of police misconduct and funding body cameras for activists and community organizers. That evening, Marcus sat on the edge of his daughter's bed, her favorite stuffed elephant clutched in her small hands. She'd barely slept through the night since the arrest, waking up screaming at shadows. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice small and uncertain, "are the bad police gone?" He smoothed her hair back gently, his throat tight with emotion. "That bad policeman can't hurt anyone anymore, baby. And you know what? You were so brave that night. You helped Daddy by being strong." She looked up at her with eyes that seemed too old for 8 years, eyes that had seen things no child should see. Will it happen again? Marcus didn't lie to her. He'd never lied to her. "I don't know, sweetheart. The world isn't perfect. But that's why we fight. So maybe it happens a little less. So maybe other daddies and their daughters are safer." She was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she nodded, a small, solemn gesture that broke his heart. But then she smiled, small, fragile but real, the first genuine smile in 3 months. "Daddy?" "Yes, baby." "I'm glad you fight." He pulled her close, kissing the top of her head, his eyes burning. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." If you believe Officer Vance got exactly what he deserved, hit that like button and subscribe, because justice doesn't just happen. It's documented, fought for, and won in court one case at a time. This is why we record everything. This is why we never stop fighting. Because in the end, justice isn't just about winning your own case. It's about changing the system so there are fewer cases to fight. And sometimes the body camera that was meant to protect the officer becomes the evidence that protects the truth. Marcus's daughter asked him one night, weeks after the settlement, why he gave all the money away. Marcus knelt beside her bed and said what his own father had never gotten a chance to say. Because some things matter more than money, sweetheart. Like making sure this doesn't happen to someone else's daddy. Like proving that we're not powerless. Like showing you that your voice, your truth, your evidence, those things can change the world. She smiled at him, that same fragile but growing smile, and said, I want to be a lawyer like you when I grow up. And in that moment, Marcus knew that even the worst trauma could plant seeds of the most powerful change.